If you run and still get injured, even though you're doing strength training, this video might help you. If you don't know me, I'm Gabriel Fenato and I'm a running coach, also student of physiotherapy. And in this video, I will show you exactly why most runners, even though they do strength training, but they're not doing strength training for running, which is completely different because when you do traditional gym workouts, it's very cool. It helps in some points like hypertrophy, like a minimum amount of strength training. So it has some positive points, but it's completely different from transferring performance to running. And I can affirm this because it lacks the specificity. W- In one point, we have like you sit in the machine, you're just pushing those weights, stable on a position that doesn't reflect what the running really demands. So when you're running, you have that whole pressure to jump, like it's short jumps that you do, single leg jumps, and that really needs stability. That needs a strong foot arc, that needs a strong ankle, a strong knee, a strong and stable hip. Because if you don't have that, all your body's gonna suffer, all the way from the low back pain that will surge. Also, you're gonna start feeling some knee pain and much more problems. So if you don't do what you really need to do, you're not gonna be able to do that. And traditional gym workouts focused on hypertrophy and those stuff, they do not solve the demands that the running has. So it's super important that we understand this. We've got to train movement patterns over muscles. When we think about traditional gym, we're just thinking, oh, I'm gonna train my biceps. Next day, I'm training my shoulder, and that's it. But it's not like that it works when we're talking about running. We need to train patterns of movements. Like one day it will be a focused on pushing, the other day you're going to be actually bowling. So it's completely different. And when we think about lower body, we're going to think on hip dominance, knee dominance. It's completely different. And another thing we have as a big mistake that runners are making when they're training in the gym or strength training at home, neither way, it's chasing load instead of force application. Not necessarily you're going to have to put a lot of weight in the machine or in the barbell or whatever you're using as a tool to have force application. Quite the contrary, you can have a lot of gains with your body weight and with simple equipment. Many times, you're gonna think that if you have more weight, automatically you're going harder. And that's not true. That's completely not true, especially when we think about running. Because many people sees like if you're jumping, it doesn't have the same difficulty as if you were strength training, and that's completely a mistake because when you're jumping, your body is going through a hard time, honestly, both physiologically, both in the biomechanical aspect. So it's super important that you truly understand that. Another and third big mistake that runners are making when training strength, and that's why it's leading to pain, is because they ignore stiffness, contact time, and directional force. So if you're applying force like vertical and when you're running you have some horizontal demand, it's completely wrong. If your contact time isn't being something that has been considering when you're strength training, like you need plyometrics to make your contact time better. If you don't do them and that's completely taken away, you're gonna feel pain because your body isn't prepared to absorb impact and to transfer it throughout 20 kilometers, 42 kilometers. When we talk about miles, which is the most common for US citizens, we have like you're gonna run 20 miles, and how can you not have the capacity to transfer the force and the impact. If you cannot absorb the impact, you can't have a good running form. And stiffness is like one of the most important things because it basically creates the space and capacity to truly absorb this impact, and more than that, to transfer it. And when we talk about this, we're talking about the reactive cycle, and that cycle is super important because you absorb strength and you have to transfer it for the next movement. And when you use that properly with a good stiffness, you have a good performance, but your body needs to be ready by it. And when and where do I get it ready? Of course, in the running process as well, when you're running, but when you're strength training, doing plyometrics, that makes total difference. So you need to start doing that. The third point is why traditional gym routines fail runners. First of all, machines will remove ground reaction forces. That's something that we have to consider. If you don't have ground reaction force, and this need to apply force against the ground, you basically cannot evolve in running. That's like in the athleticism, we have this concept so clear, but for people who are coming from a fitness common background, sometimes it's hard to understand to see, bilateral lifts won't reflect the running asymmetry. So if you're training only bilateral, when you're gonna run and you have to be unilateral for running, your body's gonna suffer, honestly. And you won't take the demand. The pain will come. So that's a big problem. And we have one more point, which is the biggest reason why the traditional gym routines are going to fail runners, is because there's no connection to cadence, to stride, to impact. And this basically removes all the specificity needed to make a good running form. But Gabriel, you might be wondering and ask me what actually works. Specific strength works and short ground contact drills, which is the plyometric training, both from the basis of plyometric training, where we're gonna train the capacity to absorb that contact, that strength that's been applied, that impact, and we will go all the way to the reactive plyometrics, where we're gonna find a harder time and our body's going to be in a big stress, but also it will lead to a better stiffness, a better contact time capacity on bigger distances, races, and you'll also have the capacity to start putting the right direction to force. Because if your force is being random, it doesn't have direction, you're failing yourself as a runner and it's not going to work. So, another thing that actually works is elastic reactive work, which is like the next step of plyometrics, of basic plyometrics. And the fourth thing that actually works is doing strength that improves running economy and not aesthetics. If you're only training to get your biceps big and to have this big bodybuilder aspect, you cannot run well. You can't, because you don't improve your running economy. And while someone is next to you running softly, he's running like flying, and you're like heavy and trying to make that strength. And when he goes to 3 kilometers, that guy is all the way on the front, and you're all the way behind and thinking, oh God, what is wrong with me? So that's something that running economy solves, because running economy is basically your capacity to run bigger miles without needing to put extra effort in it. And when you're running comfortably at a lower pace, you can run for miles and miles. But if you're running heavily and you know your breathing is lost, your body is like with a very high temperature, completely wasted, completely drowned to that feeling of I can't do anymore, I'm gonna fail. If you go to that state, it's probably because you're not prepared. And if you get in there, you're gonna fail. And then you're gonna actually end up breaking your running, and you'll have to stop, you have to walk, and that's it. You've lost it. You know? It's when your performance goes all the way down. So these are the 4 points that actually works. If you want a simple structured way to do this without guessing, going random, thinking, or just guessing something, that's exactly what I teach inside Run Strong 7D. It's only $990, and you'll have a 7-day guidance to start training specifically for running, both in the gym or at home. It doesn't matter. We will adapt basically what you need and what you have access to. And you receive the training directly in the app, all personalized for you. So it's super cheap for everything that we've been given in there. And more than that, you'll have a group with a physiotherapist, with me, and a nutritionist, so you can truly be assessed and taken all doubt away. So running faster and safer is not about doing more or lifting heavier. It's about doing what actually is going to transfer for running performance. So if you want help with that, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next opportunity. See you guys. Thank you so much.